Remembering ourselves in 2026, reclaiming our power in a world that taught us to forget. As we move into another new year, many turn their attention towards resolutions, towards becoming someone new, a better version of ourselves, or a more disciplined version, or perhaps a more successful, healthy, confident version. But instead of reaching for something else, what if this year was about remembering exactly who you've always been? This is exactly how healing actually works. Healing is not self-improvement. Healing is not fixing what's wrong with you. Healing is not forcing change through willpower alone. Healing is remembering. It is the process of calling back the parts of ourselves that were left behind, fragmented, violated, neglected, or buried in order to survive. And when those aspects are remembered, reintegrated into the whole, we bring more of ourselves back into present time awareness. In doing so, something remarkable happens. Clarity returns, energy returns, direction returns, and the body remembers how to heal. Suddenly, goals that once felt distant or blocked become achievable, not because you pushed harder, but because the blocks were removed. You got out of your own way by acknowledging what needed to be remembered. In my own life, I've seen this again and again. When I focused on healing rather than striving, progress accelerated. When I tended to the emotional and energetic blocks instead of blaming myself for a lack of discipline, my deepest desires began to move again. Healing restored access to the information that had been locked away, information that was trying to tell me something mattered here. Something needed to be remembered. And as I remembered myself, many aspects of life became clearer. I became less stubborn, reactive, angry, and I gained, actually reclaimed and remembered confidence, compassion, groundedness, stability, and direction. And I healed from a variety of diseases and concerns, like insomnia and drug addictions. This year, I invite you to consider the same path, not becoming something else, but remembering yourself. One of the safest, most effective ways I've found to support deep remembering and healing is through the teachings and approach of holographic memory resolution. HMR is a gentle, evidence-based method that helps people reintegrate fragmented experiences and restore coherence within the body and nervous system. In its first clinical trial, participants experienced statistically significant reductions in anxiety, depression, PTSD, and chronic pain with just a few sessions. HMR had such a profound impact on my life that I became certified in it, and I now help facilitate programs and funding initiatives that support HMR's broader outreach. At its core, this work is revolutionary, not because it adds something external, but because it returns power, agency, and healing capacity back to the individual, where it belongs. More information about HMR can be found below. What we remember as we heal. Remembering yourself doesn't stop with personal clarity and healing. As you walk this path, you begin to remember other things too. For me, one of the most important remembrances has been reclaiming a lifelong drive to seek and speak truth about our reality, especially the truths that were deliberately obscured. That path required extensive unlearning because much of what we were taught as education was neither neutral nor designed to empower. It was indoctrination. Indoctrination into a system that rewards compliance, dependence, and disconnection, while actively preventing authentic remembering. Part of my remembering now includes exposing how deeply corrupted many of our foundational systems are, so that people can release the belief that they are broken or failing. When a culture is built on profit, greed, ego, and extraction, illness and confusion are not anomalies. They are features of the design, making it harder to remember who we are at our core. This Substack and YouTube will increasingly name these realities, not to provoke fear, but to restore agency and remind us that our power was never lost, only obscured. For example, did you know that in the early 1900s, industrial billionaires Carnegie and Rockefeller reshaped American medicine by funding, regulating, and ultimately controlling the AMA and medical school education? In the process, entire systems of healing, including eclectic medicine, herbalism, midwifery, tribal, indigenous, and naturopathy schools and educations were systematically erased. Schools with strong clinical outcomes were defunded, discredited, and shut down, not because they failed, but because they didn't align with a centralized pharmaceutical driven, which is a profitable Rockefeller oil byproduct model that was required after the industry funded 1910 Flexner report. I encourage you to research all this yourself. A quote often attributed to Rockefeller states, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." Whether or not these exact words were spoken is irrelevant, as the outcome speaks for itself. We now live in a culture trained to obey rather than to question, consume rather than understand, and outsource authority over our bodies, health, and lives to institutions that profit from our dependence. The result is a culture that often feels disconnected, efficient, medicated, and functional on the surface, yet profoundly unwell beneath it. This didn't happen by accident. The cost has been a population that is productive, which is arguable, yet medicated, managed, and increasingly sick, all while being told this is scientific progress. The deeper I went, the clearer it became. Our education, medical, and societal systems condition dependence. They train us subtly and relentlessly to look outside of ourselves for authority, for healing, and for permission, and for truth. These systems profit from illness, from disconnection, and from mindless scrolling, and generally from outsourcing our knowing and intuition to experts and institutions. We no longer have the luxury of blindly deferring to archaic systems that were never designed to empower us, but rather make us a nation of disconnected, sick, compliant workers. To remember ourselves, we must be willing to see these structures clearly and to consciously step beyond them. True empowerment does not come from replacing one external authority with another. It comes from going within, reclaiming the intelligence, intuition, healing, and personal power we all possess, while simultaneously seeing the systems that we were raised in for what they really are. Systems that depend on our forgetting. Systems to keep us from remembering. Remembering our truest selves requires both courage and clarity. The courage to stop outsourcing our power, and the clarity to recognize where that power was siphoned away in the first place. From there, something new becomes possible. We take our power back from within, and then we are energized to build new systems, new communities, and new ways of living that support this inner authority rather than undermine it. That is true remembrance. As we collectively move from the age of Pisces, marked by hierarchy, external belief systems, and mediated authority, into the age of Aquarius, something profound is shifting. Aquarius is about inner knowing, self-responsibility, and community. It is about remembering that we already possess that which we've been taught to seek elsewhere. This shift isn't abstract. It's embodied, it's personal, it's collective, and it's coming. And you can be an integral part of this shift. Remembering the divine within. This same remembrance has unfolded in my spiritual life. Many know I once identified as an atheist scientist working for the government. My path evolved into daily prayer and unwavering divine partnership, only to reveal something unexpected. I was still subtly seeking something outside myself. Recently, I've been dismantling false New Age teachings that emphasize or encourage transcendence or perpetual ascension away from the body and the earth. What I've remembered instead is this: to descend fully into the body, into the earth, into organic, natural intelligence, as opposed to the artificial intelligence paradigm. This is the fastest path to embodying the fulfilled life you came here to live. To want to ascend is, in many ways, to want to leave this world behind, but to descend into form while honoring your innate divine connection, to live fully here, now, in present time, and in relationship with earth and body. This is where peace, power, and healing all meet. This remembering has brought a grounded strength to my life that years of atheism and then upward spirituality could never reach. I will be sharing more ways to support this kind of grounded, embodied remembering in the times ahead. An invitation for 2026. So here we are, stepping into another year in the Gregorian calendar. 2026 actually carries a rare and catalytic energy that supports this remembering in a very real way. As a universal year number 1, 2 plus 2 plus 6 is 10, which is 1, marks the beginning of a new 9-year creative cycle, a reset that asks each of us to step forward as conscious initiators of our lives. This, paired with the fire horse energy in the Chinese zodiac, amplifies courage, momentum, independence, and visibility. It is not a year for shrinking, waiting, or repeating old patterns. It is a year that rewards clarity, decisive action, and embodied leadership, all things that come from remembering. The fire horse does not ask you who you should be, it demands that you remember who you are and move accordingly, and not from force, but from wholeness. This year also calls for collaboration and community. More than ever, I feel the pull towards intentional, health sovereign, nature aligned ways of living. I believe authentic community will be central to our future, and I invite you to begin planting that seed in your own life. So here's my invitation to remember you in 2026. Remember yourself this year. Remember the parts of you that are ready to come home to wholeness. Remember what peace feels like in your nervous system. Remember and trust the intelligence that lives in your nervous system. Remember the parts of you that adapted so you could survive. Remember what you knew before you were told who to be or what to do. Remember the instincts you were trained to doubt. Remember the questions you were taught not to ask. Remember the wisdom that lived in your body before it was silenced. Remember the power you gave away without realizing it. Remember you are a co-creator of your life. Remember the divine that lives within, not above or beyond you. Remember that you were never meant to do this alone. Remember what becomes possible when we heal together. Remember that your healing ripples outward. Remember what it feels like to be whole. Remember the future we are capable of creating, individually and collectively, once we remember who we truly are. As you remember, consider these questions. What part of you has been waiting to come home? What did your body know before your mind learned to override it? What if what you've been searching for has been within you all along? What truth have you always known but learned to doubt? What becomes possible when you stop pushing and start listening? What path feels natural when you stop trying to earn it? What did you learn to silence in order to belong? What becomes possible when healing clears the way instead of effort forcing the outcome? Who might we become if we stopped doing this alone? What could we heal if we allowed ourselves to be seen? What kind of world emerges when we remember together? I wish you a powerful journey of remembering in 2026 and beyond.